right?
Yeah, it was a light, easy day, so it was nice and relaxing.
Mm.
So.
Is your training different now because you had a fight and then you didn't have a fight? Are they still looking?
Yeah, it's gotten a lot slower for me in the past year. The last time I fought was in August of last year. So, I mean, I don't know if it's just getting a manager. Like, I really don't know. I mean, my coach is so humble. He's great, but he's also really busy. So really, it's just putting my name out there and hoping someone bites. But it's just so hard. I hear the same thing over and over from promoters that it's difficult to find matchups now for people in my weight class and for the amount of experience that I have. So I don't know. I'm trying to stay motivated, but it's hard when you don't have a fight,
Right.
or who have done smokers, but now they want to elevate to amateur.
Right.
So you'll find the people who do have a lot of experience very rarely on a Muay Thai card.
Mm. There's very recently, and I don't know if it's actually recently or if I've just heard about it recently and it's been heated up or something. But there's like an East versus West debate going on about like East Coast versus West Coast Muay Thai. But you're one of these rare people who's fought on both coasts. So do you perceive a pretty big difference between those two?
I've read some articles on it, and it's interesting to me because from what I read, based on the author of the blog, whom I really don't know very well, excuse me, but the article really stated that, and this is the author's point of view, was that West Coast Muay Thai is a little more traditional Muay Thai, and then East Coast is a little more westernized in the fact that it has more boxing. So I don't know. The only person that I fought on the East Coast was Florina.
Right.
And her style is distinct. But I feel like everyone that I fought has their own style. So I really couldn't distinguish, or I really couldn't put I really couldn't label someone as an East Coast fighter or a West Coast fighter. So I really can't put an opinion on it, only because my only firsthand experience is Florina. And, just like any other opponent I've had, they've all had their own distinct style. So that's what I've read. As far as my own opinion, I don't have one. I'm not very well versed with the East Coast scene so much.
So you've fought actually on a global stage, which is pretty amazing. So having fought in the East Coast, in the West Coast, and then in Thailand and these different things, you must have experienced a difference in judging between all these different places.
Well, on an international level, I found that the scoring was much different in that they didn't really score leg kicks so much, which I found interesting. It was more of you really needed to counter, or you really needed to be the last person to get the punch or the kick. So we trained specifically for that when I went to Thailand. So I definitely saw that, but I think that I'm also a fighter who likes to counter a lot. So my mentality is tit for tat. If you hit me, I'll do my best to hit you back. If you kick me, I want to kick you back. So so normally I kind of like to end my combos that way. But I definitely focused on that more when I went to Thailand. And as far as the East Coast, again, my one experience there, I thought it was pretty even. The scoring for my fight with Florina was a little lopsided with one of the judges. But again, wherever you go, there is always going to be biases. Whether you're fighting in your opponent's hometown or in your opponent's, own country, it gets challenging, and sometimes you really have to prove. You really have to you can't leave it up to the judges sometimes. If you really want to win, you either need to knock them out, or you got to completely dominate. And even if you're super technical and other people can appreciate that, unless it's like obvious, even to the common spectator, it's always going to be difficult, especially when you're in someone else's hometown.
Right.
So those are the only things that I've noticed.
How do you prepare yourself mentally as well as physically for when you're getting ready for a fight? And then how do you recover mentally after a fight as well as physically?
So, mentally preparing for a fight, I've been very blessed to not get nervous before a fight. I think that's kind of strange, but I don't know what it is. Right before a fight, I'm relaxed, I'm talking, I'm laughing, I'm reading a book or a magazine. Like, I'm just so nonchalant. It's ridiculous, and I'm very blessed to have that. But there will be, times where I visualize the fight. A lot of a guy that I used to date actually taught me this and suggested that I actually visualize the fight from start to beginning, from the moment I walk onto the stage or the platform, to the Ram Muay or Muay crew, to the moment I step out of the ring after the fight. That's my little secret. It's not a secret anymore, but it's something that I do because he says that you've already experienced the fight in your head, so there's really nothing that's going to be unexpected. So I sit there and I do like a little meditation, and it's quiet, and I'll time the rounds too. Like I'll time the 2-minute rounds, and I'll go through all 5 rounds in my head and just imagine what my opponent would do and what I would do in return. And so that's the mental part. The physical part is just like anyone else's training camp. You incorporate strength and conditioning, you incorporate running, rounds and rounds of pad work and sparring, and I just, whatever my coach tells me to do, I'll work on it, and that's it. I think there's nothing really special with my training camps. It's just, you work hard. And once you get into the ring, you can't hide from anyone or anything. So, if you didn't do your cardio enough, it's going to show in the ring. So you can't really hide. So you kind of have to do it. So, yeah, nothing special there as far as the physical training. And then afterwards, if I always have fun. And so whether it be a loss or a win, I'm just elated and ecstatic to have, fought a battle. And, just to go out there is a big accomplishment in itself. Fighters are super different, very, very different. We have a very different mentality. And it's after the fight's over, it's okay, I lost. Sometimes I'll critique myself even if I win, I'll look at my tape, or I'll think, man, we were working on this and I didn't execute, or, we're our own worst critics. So, but, there'll be that moment of, darn, I lost, or, oh, well, what can you do now? You did, I know if I prepared and if I trained my hardest, then, and if I left it up to the judges, and that, that is their decision, and if I won or if my opponent won, that was the best fighter for that night.
Right.
So that's my take on it. And then afterwards, go eat. I think about what I did in the ring, and then my next thought is it's time to eat.
Do you have any kind of conflict when thinking about the kind of, I guess the timeline for any fighter is going to be based on when you're in your top shape, when your body is able to recover, what you're doing in your life. And certainly if you're going to start a family, for a woman, you have to take time off, whereas a man doesn't have to take time off for that. Responsibility-wise, he should maybe when the baby comes around. But yeah, it's your body. Like, you're literally using your body for something that you can't use it for fighting at the same time. Do you, think about this in terms of the long term?
Oh yeah, it's definitely come up. I know that fighting is in my blood. I love it so much, but I know that when the time comes, I'm gonna have to take a step back. Excuse me. I want to continue to fight until the time my, fiance and I decide to start to have a family. And I know it's coming soon. I mean, our families are young. And so I'm actually, my family considers me an old maid, even though I'm all of, 28 going on 29. But they're like, oh my gosh, you're almost 30 and you're single and, not married yet and no kids. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's different nowadays. I mean, they got married and had kids in their teens and, it's a totally different generation and we do things differently nowadays. But I know it's coming. As far as when it's going to come, I know I have, duties and responsibilities to my future husband. So as far as the timeline, I mean, I know fighters who have children and who took time off to have their children and came back. And, wow, I would love to do that, but I really don't know, what's in store for me in the future. I just got to take it one day at a time. I know that I am sort of in the older bracket, I guess you can say, of the people that I fight, but I don't ever look at my age as something to hold me back. But I am noticing that it is getting harder to cut the weight. But that's about it.
I find this very interesting because I've heard it so many times where people see me and because I'm small or because I'm quiet or any of these things, they can't imagine that I also fight. And I've also been told that I'm too serious when I'm in the gym, which is hilarious because I'm serious all the time. Like, I'm serious outside of the gym too. But it seems like people are shocked by a perceived incoherence between a fighter in the ring versus a fighter out of the ring. And I find it so odd because if you acted the same out of the ring as you did in the ring, you'd be in prison. Like, you'd be a crazy person. But for some reason, people see it as being like that you have a Jekyll and Hyde personality as opposed to amplifying certain aspects of your personality. And after a fight, when all your endorphins are going and you've actually just been, like, really faced with all of your strengths and weaknesses by someone, you're best friends for, like, 2 hours after a fight. Like, people don't see it as being really, like, a bonding experience. It's so strange to me.
No, I completely agree. It's hilarious. It's like, people always ask, don't you get angry in the ring? Don't you really want to hurt someone in the ring? I'm like, no, that's not the point of fighting to me. And it's so hard for them to comprehend. And I'm like, no, it's your the challenge is against yourself to see how far you can push your limit, and it's more of a test of your skill and, your cardio and all the hard work that you've put in. So yeah, like sometimes people just don't understand how, the ring, what you do in the ring is completely separate from what you do outside of the ring, but there are still personality traits or characteristics about, your aggressiveness or, like, you always translate that to everything in life. Like, the way I take my training seriously is how I approach a project at work. I have a certain amount of integrity and I want to do the best that I can when it comes to training and also when I tackle projects at work. So they go hand in hand, but yeah, I totally feel you. They're like, what? Like, you're probably mean in the ring and you're out here in the real world. How do the two come together? I'm like, it's hard to explain to someone who doesn't fight or compete or have a passion to compete in something.
Have you found that any of the lessons that you've learned in the ring have carried over into your day-to-day life of how you face adversity, how you face challenges, how you deal with people, like on a day-to-day basis, things that you feel you learned in a ring situation?
I wish I was more like the person I am in the ring. I, in 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 a way where, how can I put this? I've become a little more aggressive at work. You know, when I tell people, yeah, I compete, they go, how are you competing when you're so nice and you're in? Sometimes they'll say I'm a pushover at work because I just let people talk over me, and and I just sit there and I'll just be quiet and I'll just let them, say what they have to say, and I'm sometimes passive at work. Yet, if most people affiliate a fighter with someone who's aggressive or more aggressive, and I actually am using that to help me, master some skills at work.
Do you have any mottos or quotes or anything like that, whether it's fight related or not, that help you when you're getting ready for a fight or even in a fight or recovering from a fight? Just something that you repeat to yourself that kind of gives you strength.
That's a tough one. I say a lot of things to myself. Strength and honor are one of the things that I repeat when I'm in the ring. Prayers that I say to myself or whisper to myself. It's just strength, honor, respect for my opponent, respect for my gym. I really feel that I am a representative of my gym and my team and my coaches and my trainers. And, I owe it to them to show how great they are and how great role models they have been to me, and to translate that into the ring with my performance. So it's more of I need to represent all who have helped me on my journey to, all the opportunities that I've had in Muay Thai. I owe it to them to do the best that I can in the ring. So that's what I think about when I am in the ring. And, I don't have any mottos that I live by, but whenever I get down, we have our off days in training, and we'll have those moments where we're just so frustrated. I mean, sometimes I'll tell myself, you don't deserve to fight. You don't deserve to be in the ring. You suck. That's what I tell myself sometimes. Because we all have those bad days. But I have to tell myself, I am so lucky that I get to do what I love every day. And not many people can say that. So I have to constantly remind myself that I'm lucky in the fact that I get to do this, and not a lot of people can do what they love all the time. So that's what I say to myself.
That's pretty good.
Thanks.
So if you could go back in time and whisper in little Jill's ear at any point in your life when you needed to know something that you know now that you wish you could give to yourself, what would you tell yourself at that point?
I would tell myself, don't be afraid to fall, because the moment you get back up, you develop a different sense of self that you never knew you had in you. So I would just tell myself, don't be afraid of the fall. Take the plunge. We all come to a point where, we just have to jump and take a dive and not know what's going to happen. And as scary as it is, you just got to do it and, just fall. And it's going to be tough, and it's going to be rough, and it's going to be hard. But don't be afraid to just let things happen. And there is the light at the end of the tunnel. You just got to wait it out and suck it up and, just keep going. So that's what I would say to myself. Don't be afraid of the fall, because when you get back up, you discover another part of yourself that you never knew existed.
That's beautiful, and I want you to remember you said that.
I have to tell myself that every day now.